everyone. This is episode 5 of the Epic Photography Podcast, and today we're talking about on-location lighting. My name is Stephanie Richer, and I'm coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee in the United States. I'm joined today by my co-host, Sean Elizabeth. Sean?
Hello.
And you're located in the United Kingdom this morning?
I am. I'm in the Isle of Wight.
Okay. And my other co-host, Roberto Pisconti.
Ciao.
Ciao, Roberto. And where are you coming in from?
Yeah, I'm now in Padua. It's a city near Venice.
Beautiful,
Nice.
beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, and as I said, today's episode is going to be about on-location lighting. That's when we have to drag out the speed lights, the strobes, the flashes, and bring them to the party, so to speak. So let me start off by asking you, Sean. Mm-hmm. Sean, what advantages do you think lights bring to your photography?
Well, I basically do beauty, fashion, and portraits. And honestly, without the lighting that I have, I wouldn't get anything that I have in my portfolio. So it's an integral part to my work with portraits. And I actually started in a studio with lights. And then I decided to very quickly take them on location because I wanted to mix things up and get a bit more creative. And it opened up a whole new world of possibilities. And I've never looked back.
Oh, so natural light isn't enough for you.
I started with natural light and I do love it. And there's a time and a place for natural light, but I wanted more. So as soon as I learned how to balance sort of flash outside with natural light, it kind of just opened up even more possibilities for me. And you can get images that you just couldn't dream of getting if you just relied on available light.
Okay. Pisco, let me ask you this. What was your learning curve like to learn how to use flash or strobe lighting?
Yeah, I have hate and love with the flash. Yeah, I started with the flash on camera, and I completed hate this flash.
Yes.
I think that I use it for 1 or 2 shoots, and after I throw away in some drawer, and I forget about my flash because you need to study a lot. When you understand how to control the light of the flash of multiple flashes, it's a new world. It's completely a new world. You can, it's how to say, you wait.
Take your time.
Yes, because I need to find the word in English because my English is not very. So you learn a lot of possibility. Okay, to do something very, very different. And it's beautiful because you can play with the different source of light. Okay?
Yeah, and that's the fun of it, isn't it? You can just be so creative.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And let me toss that back over now to you, Sean. Did using light, using flash, did it come naturally to you, or what kind of learning curve did you have?
I actually attended one of the photography shows in Birmingham, and they had some constant light. I think it was Westcott lighting, and they had a model set up, and I thought, wow, that looks really good. And I took a couple of photos, and from there on, I wanted to explore more to do with studio lighting. I didn't really know much about it then. And I think it was a progression from there to see what possibilities could be opened up. And I looked around the show, I tried out a few different things, and it didn't come naturally. I had some terrible photo shoots, kind of pictures all blown out, and it was The best way to learn is to make mistakes. And I made a lot of mistakes and I still make mistakes. And I think that's just how you learn and how you progress and how you find your style, what you like and what you don't like. But I mean, how about you, Stephanie?
Well, I have to say, the first time I tried to use Flash, I was scared because I didn't understand certain things about how light behaves. And so all I knew is that this thing would go off and the light would just bounce everywhere. And I hadn't a clue how I was going to control it. Yeah. And I thought, you take out those little manuals that you get. And I remember it was a cheap little Canon flash. And I still remember that the manual had the flash on a little stand aimed at a penguin. Now, I never knew when I'd ever want to take a picture of a penguin with a flash. But, and I remember at the time, too, saying, well, okay, I'm reading the manual. I said, ooh, TTL. Oh, that's going to do it all for me. And I put it there and I let it go. And I was like, gosh, that looks like crap. And so it really took a lot for me to understand that, rather than worrying about controlling the light, I was worrying more, or I started to learn more about controlling the spread of the light and how to use modifiers and things like that.
I was just going to say, for those that, who are listening who maybe don't know what TTL is, it's through the lens. And so it just kind of, it suggests a setting for you, what it thinks based on what lighting it can see. And yes, it sometimes goes a little bit too crazy, doesn't it, Stephanie?
Oh, it can go very crazy. And especially when you're trying to get a look, say a quote dark and moody look, and it doesn't want to do dark and moody. It wants to light the whole thing.
White.
But one of the things that I'd like to mention is that helped me to learn how to use on location lighting was really understanding the properties of lighting. So, for example, I think a lot of people, when they start off with a flash, they're equating it with something like a flashlight. Okay, and they don't understand that a flashlight has a special beam to make the light come out straight. And that, in fact, when you're using something like a strobe or a flash, the light's going to hit the edge of the light, the edge of the flash when it comes out, and it's going to naturally spread. That's a property of light that's going to take place whether you're using a flash, whether you're using continuous lighting, even the sun's own light has to follow the properties of light. And by understanding that, so for example, understanding that, okay, the light's going to hit that edge and it's going to start spreading. Rather than pointing the light directly at somebody, I might want to point it a little off to the side. We use the term feathering, right? Yes. Feathering the light to make it look, softer and learn that way. But, it's interesting, Sean, that you mentioned going to the photography show in Birmingham and seeing continuous light. Yeah. And that's something that, again, a lot of people, we're not necessarily always talking about flashes and strobes. We're also saying, hey, you can bring in continuous lights as well. So
do you think that it's more simple to use continuous light than flashes?
Yes. Yes, I think it's a simple answer. It's basically you can see straight away, can't you? Where the light is falling on the model's face, or if you're doing like a subject like a flower or food photography, you can instantly see what it is. However, there are drawbacks to that because then you have to adjust your camera settings, and of course, the higher the settings like ISO, the more grain you might get, so it won't be as clear an image. So this is why strobes or flash or speed lights are just that next level. It's the next level up, I think. I think constant lights are brilliant, and the Westcott lighting that I remember seeing were fantastic. And I know there's other constant lights that I've used in the past as well, like Pixar Pro, and they've all been fantastic. But I think that the strobes just bring that extra element. And then, of course, you can freeze action as well. So, if you have a model dancing outside or even in the studio, you can freeze that action. Where, of course, if you used constant light, you would have a blur.
Well, and there's also the problem of, let's say you're using constant light and you're out, say, on the beach. Where do you plug it in?
Yes.
because there are
No.
packs you can bring for constant lighting and whatnot, but actually, no, you need a generator. That just isn't practical. But thank you for bringing that up, Sean, because I think that leads now into a good discussion about the challenges of using light on location. And Sean, I'll toss that to you. What do you think is your biggest challenge using on location lighting?
So, basically here in the UK, probably the weather, to be honest. I don't really have a lot of choice in terms of modifier unless I have lots of assistants with me. I have to use something. Well, I definitely couldn't use an umbrella because it's just too windy here and it would just all blow away. I think that's probably the biggest challenge for location lighting. And I say, when it gets into that sort of thing, when you want to do something like that, you really do need to have at least one person there who is willing to just hold something or just be there on lookout. Because obviously, if you've got expensive kit, or even if you just need an arm to hold it somewhere, or even for the reflector, you need someone. And actually, I think you called what do you call them, Stephanie?
Val.
The valve, the voice-activated light stand.
Yes, everybody needs a valve.
Move 2 steps to the left, hold it just like that. No, that's right. And by the way, while we're talking about the weather, raise your hand if you've ever had your light stand blow over on location and destroyed a light.
we're all raising our hands there, I think.
I do believe so. I'll tell you another challenge that on location lighting can bring is having to light little spaces. So, for example, sometimes I'm called upon by clients to come do corporate headshots for businesses. And, I'll tell them, well, we're going to need a dedicated space. And they'll invariably lead me into one of the smallest meeting rooms in their building. And, there's all these very close set white walls and whatnot. So that's something that's, with lighting, on location lighting, you also have to think not only about the weather, but what kind of space are you in? Excuse me, Pisco, you just did something where you were indoors outside of a studio with Ukrainian refugees. Can you talk about that and your setup that you had going for that?
Yes. I did this yesterday. I have to make a portrait of about 25 refugees. Okay. This is for how to say, when you collect money to give to an association.
For charity?
A charity. Perfect. It's a project for a charity. And so we were in a farm, in a very, very big farm. And they give us I think the biggest room that I ever seen. It was a conference room, but you need to know that this farm is an international farm. So you can imagine how big is this conference room. And there is a lot of light. It's cold light, but a lot. So I have a little trick that I use when I am in this kind of room with this kind of light. Normally, I have my background. It's a black background. It's very, very big. You can put on the back of the people that you want to photograph. And what I usually do is completely avoid the light that is inside the room. When my camera, I set my camera that when I shoot, it must shoot black. Completely black.
Okay.
And only after I had my flashes. So I can control almost every light that there is in that picture. And for this shoot, I have 3 flashes, 2 on the side of the person with the rectangular softbox. And one big hexagonal softbox right in front of them, a little bit higher. So this was my setup, and it went good. It went very, very good. But the trick is you need to control the light, not the light. You not the light control you. I hope that you understand what I say.
Well,
Yeah,
actually,
no.
that I'm going to use that to go back to something Sian had said earlier. She used a word that I think we can discuss with on-location lighting. You talked, Pisco, about first you take the shot without the lights, and you want to see absolute black on the back of your camera.
Almost black,
So
yes.
you know then that you're controlling all the light. But Sian, earlier you used the word balance and ambient lighting. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's a different situation to Pisco's because obviously he had a very large room that seemed, I guess it was very, like you said, very, very bright. So you didn't want it to be bright. So in that situation, you don't want any available light to come into your shot at all because you want your lights to be the only lights on your model. Where the images that I've done on location, I tend to balance the flash with the available light. So if I'm on a beach location, I want to make sure that I expose properly for the beach, the sky, the background basically. And then I'll add the light to basically light the model. So it's about finding that balance between the two so that both work and both have good exposures.
Is it an even balance?
Yeah, it depends. It depends what look I'm going for. Sometimes if I want it to be dark and stormy and dramatic, I'll sort of underexpose the sky, and then it's a bit more, on the model's face, everything, it seems a bit more dramatic. And but if you want it kind of airy, then it's a little bit the other way. And so yeah, it depends really. But I'd say I know you do a lot of engagement shoots and. What was the other thing you did, Stephanie? You did engagement shoots and
marriage proposals.
Marriage proposals, yes, in the Smokies. So, I mean, how do you do it? Do you also balance the light? How do you work with that?
Well, I have that same issue where, for example, because we're in the Smokies, people naturally want to have that background scene. Right? They want to see the details of the hills and the mountains and the waterfalls and everything. So here's something I do. Since a lot of times the people coming to do their proposals, they don't know the Smokies. So I'll try to think of, when they say, well, what's a good location? I'll try to think of, okay, what time are we going to do this? Because I know where the sun's going to be, right? I always plan for the sunny day. And what I'll do is I'll try, first of all, to find a location where I know I'm not going to have to struggle as much balancing the light, especially since, at least for the proposal aspect, I can't use necessarily flash. Right. If he's proposing and she's not expecting it and suddenly flashes go off,
yeah,
that's not going to work.
That's a big giveaway, isn't it? Who's that just flashing us over there?
But I'll do a photo shoot after the proposal.
Right.
And that's where I really have to stop and think, okay, what time of day is it? And in what location in what direction, so to speak, I should be shooting, because balancing that light might be difficult. And one of the reasons is that, we talk about balancing the light with on-location shooting outside, but that's going to require, based upon the time of day, a flash that's strong enough to overcome what light may be there.
Yeah, this is it.
In fact, it's funny because a lot of times people want to, they want to get the sunset shot. And if the sun hasn't quite dipped below the horizon, you might be shooting, right? You think, oh, I'm going to put the sun right behind my person and I'm going to light them from the front. But in fact, you're shooting into the sun, and that's going to cause your sensor to go, not to mention, sometimes it's the opposite direction. If there are beautiful clouds in the sky that are being caught by the last rays of the sun, that's really the background that looks the most dramatic.
Sorry, I was going to say, so I have to ask you then, do you use the sun as your secondary light source a lot then? Do you use it to your advantage? I know you said that a lot of people would ask you to shoot midday. So is that something that you've kind of learnt to love? Because a lot of people say, don't shoot midday, it's terrible. But obviously if you have strobes, this is one advantage that you could use towards being able to shoot at that time.
Absolutely, Sian, because if you think about it, the more lights that we can add, sometimes we get a nicer depth to our pictures, right?
Yes.
It's just a little bit more detail, a little bit, more to it than just simple one light shooting or using one light. Although that in itself might look great because, again, you talked about the dramatic. If you're going for a dramatic effect, you want that one light to just light their face and the background's dark and that looks great. But sometimes if you have the sun, it makes sense to go ahead and think of that as your second light, right? So it's going to give you a hair light. It's going to give you a rim light, and you're going to use your flash on location to go ahead and light the front of them. And the effect is going to be wonderful. It's going to be absolutely great.
So just a little, another tips, maybe you don't know this one. If you want to know exactly where is the sun when you go on location, there is I use a simple site. It's called suncalc.org or .net. I don't remember the last. And there you can put the location that you want, and it show you exactly in 24 hours where is the sun, when it's sunrise, when it's sunset, the exact position. It's like a circle, and if I'm here and I shoot at 16, the sun is directly on my back. And I use a lot when I go to just for the sunset or for the sunrise, where to find where is the sun when you want to shoot something in particular.
Nice.
Do you know that actually is something to remember when you're doing on location lighting as well? Is that if you're the photographer, sometimes you don't have control of the situation, but when you do, make it work for you. So as an example, if you're looking for, say you've got just a simple speed light, a simple flash, you know that you don't have enough power to overcome the sun. So you say, okay, let's find shade. But look at the shade too. Is it dappled light? You might not have enough power to overcome the dappled light. And that's okay. Find the position that works for you. I mean, a lot of times people, it's so funny. I've seen situations where photographers were like, I don't like this picture. I just couldn't get the lighting right. And it's like, well, why didn't you go over there? Well, because, I don't know about you, but if I see an easier situation over there, I'm going to go for that. Let me ask you this question, Pisco. And I'm also going to follow up with you on this, Sian.
Okay.
In your experience, what was the coolest thing you ever did with on-location lighting? What was the picture that made it?
Good question.
Oh. So the coolest. Using gels on location. Yes. It was the first time that I used these gels on my flashes. And I was amazed. It's correct. Like from when you see the picture, say, okay.
and just in case somebody doesn't know, what Pisco's talking about is putting like an acetate film, or some type of transparent film in front of your flash that's colored, so that the light coming from the flash is colored. Go on, Pisco. I want to hear about this.
Also, you can use this one to balance the light of the sun. Because if you put an orange or slightly orange films in front of your flash, your flash becomes warm, like the color of your flash is warm. So you can use to balance the light of the sun. It looks more natural.
So what was the situation where you saw, where were you when you saw the colored light come out and you went, wow?
It was a shoot for a friend that she made a record. It's called when you, she's a singer. And she asked me for some picture to promote his CD. And we did this we was in. It's yeah, I know it's a cliche inside a destroyed farm. This
like
ruined.
an abandoned.
Yeah, abandoned. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it was a little bit cliche, but it was.
It works, Pisco. It works.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Come on,
sometimes we need to do the cliche things. Because some of them are beautiful.
You can't have a Swedish death metal album without the group standing in some forest somewhere looking really sullen. I mean, come on, that's just the trope, man. You got to go with the trope. Sean, how about you? What's the coolest thing you ever did with light?
I don't know about the coolest, but I'm going to choose a simple one actually for this, because it was a shoot that I did a while ago when I first had my portable lighting. So I used to have studio lights, and I wanted to go on location. I used to lug them around in this carry case, and I had to get a generator because I needed power for them. And I don't know how I did it, but I managed to do it, and it was great, and I got some good shots. But when I decided to get some more portable lights, they had like a small little battery carry case. They were Pixar Pro ones. And I decided to do a beach fashion shoot in Northumberland. And it was actually a very, very sunny day, but it was still quite cold. And this model was brilliant. She was like, oh yeah, I don't mind going in the bikinis. And we did all these different shots. And this light, I think it had like 2 power settings or something. It was just like full or nothing. And I stuck it on to full, and the sun was out overhead. And these shots that came out, I just looked at them and I thought, wow, I can't believe this light had this capability to create, to make this image what it is. And, like you, Stephanie, I was using the sun as my secondary light source. So I had the sun one side, the flash coming from the other side. And I wouldn't have got the shots that I did if I didn't have the external lighting. So cool. I think it was cool because it opened my eyes up to all the possibilities, and for shooting in midday sun, because I think that's the main one. I think, we don't want to get up too early, we don't want to be out too late. So midday, well, we're stuck with the sun then, and, we have to make the most of it. But with that external lighting, you just have so many possibilities. So definitely that one, I think. How about you, Stephanie?
Well, I had a situation where I was doing a wedding. And I remember we had just done what we call in America the first look, where the couple sees each other before the wedding and they exchange like a gift or something like that. And the couple had just done that, and I'm walking away, and the bride's mother said to me, "We have a problem." And I said, "Well, it can't be the couple because they seemed in love just 5 minutes ago." And she said, "No." She said, "The videographer is going to be late. He went to the wrong address, so we have to push everything back by an hour."
Oh, no.
And as I like to tell brides, time, tide, and sunset wait for no bride, right? You can't do anything about that. So I said, okay. And I called the bride over, and I called over the mother. I said, I pulled out the schedule, and I said, let's move this here and this here and this here. But what it means is because this was a venue that the bride absolutely loved, and she wanted to shoot in various spots in the venue. And I said, okay, what we're going to do is as soon as the ceremony's over, we're going to go ahead and jump in the little golf cart they had. And we're going to try to, while we still have light, because the ceremony was going to be pushed back to about, maybe an hour before sunset. So we had maybe a half hour after the ceremony to get everything done. I said, we're just going to go for it, because if I have to do the family pictures, which normally would follow the ceremony, if I have to do those inside with flash, better that's done than we miss these spots.
Yeah.
So we do that, and we hit as many spots as we want. And there's this one area that was this grove of trees. And by the time we got, by the time we could get there, it was dark. There was no way we could do anything there. And that really bothered me. And fortunately, I was with another photographer who has a background in cinematography. So we went out to the grove in the darkness with flashlights. We excused ourselves from the reception. And what I did was I set up the light, hid it behind a tree so that it would come down on the couple. But I purposely planned to have the groom holding this lantern. So that the light became what we call a motivated light, right? It made it look like the lantern would be lighting the couple when in fact it was that flash hidden behind the tree.
Right,
And then
nice.
talking about gels, Pisco,
Yes.
we had a second light sort of skim across the arbor that they'd be standing under with a blue gel to emulate moonlight. And we had a third light, again with the blue gel in the back to emulate moonlight falling back there. And that's the shot we took. And it was funny because I told the other photographer, I said, okay, go get the bride and groom. So here he walks out onto the dance floor with his headlamp on. And he's like, Stephanie wants you outside. And they're like,
Not
okay.
photos.
So this kind of shoot remember me some Magritte paint, where you have the blue on the sky, but it's day on the ground. There is a paint from Magritte that is like this.
Well,
Yes.
the bride later told me, she said, we followed your second out, and she goes, we're in pitch black. And I didn't even know where you were until I heard you call me, over here. And we set them up, right? We used a light from one of the headlights just so I could grab focus
Yes.
and then lock the focus, right? Because once that light was off, I wasn't going to see them. And I said, okay. And, we all know how a flash goes off. Pow! And the bride said to me, she goes, and I said, okay, we got the shot. And she's standing there in pitch black like, oh, okay.
I bet
And
they
she said,
absolutely love that image as well.
She asked me, because I had it on the back of the camera, and she said, can I see the image? I said, no. You'll see it when I deliver the rest. And that was the one that she just flipped over. She goes, holy cow, I can't believe you can do that with light.
Can we see the picture now?
Yeah, I think you have to put the picture in.
Yes.
Add the
I'll
link.
put it in
and we'll
the show
pop
notes.
into our Facebook
Yes.
group. Yeah, pop it in our Facebook group.
And I'll do a link to Imgur in the show notes or something like that.
Brilliant.
But it just goes to show you that, again, if you practice on location lighting, right? And Sean, I think you hit it on the nail. Have fun with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Do crazy things like take the band into the abandoned farmhouse and put colored gels. You really, you'd be surprised at what you can do. And I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode by each of us giving a tip to the person who is thinking about doing on location lighting. So Pisco, I'm going to let you go first. You go.
I have my favorite tips. Charge your battery, please. Remember to charge your battery.
That's a very, very good one.
Yes.
In fact,
Sorry,
I was going to say, in fact, if your flash starts acting funny,
yes.
check the battery on it and check the battery on your trigger.
On the trigger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had that one catch me out a couple of times, actually. I think a good one for if you're looking to get into portrait lighting and you don't have any friends or family who are willing to model for you, I suggest popping over to Amazon or any other kind of outlet and getting yourself a creepy head. Now, so bear with me here. It's actually a hairdresser's head, and hairdressers buy their heads and they practice with the hair and things, all this kind of stuff. But they are so good to practice different lighting techniques. So whether you're indoors, outdoors, you can take the head, pop it onto a light stand. Yes, it looks freaky, but it really does work, I promise you. And you can try all different lighting techniques and you can have fun with it. And in that way, when you do have a model come in to pose for you, you know what lighting you want to do, you know what works, and you're going to be more confident as well. How about you, Stephanie?
Very good. My biggest tip is get closer, because I think that when I have, especially a new photographer, say to me, I don't understand what's going on with this lighting, they're afraid of overlighting. But what they don't realize is that they pull back so far that the picture is actually underexposed. So, don't be afraid to get a little closer or bring your light up. I would say that if you've not done on location lighting before and you're not quite sure what you're doing, start at 1/8 power. Just start at 1/8 power, right? And get it to where it's, let's say, 3 feet from your person. Okay? Then look at your picture. Is it too bright? Well, you can move the light back or you can turn the light down. Is it too dark? Move the light closer or turn the light up. In other words, we talked before about the first time we used a flash, how it was like a little intimidating because all this light came out and bounced all over. Don't be so intimidated that you don't use the light correctly. Go ahead and get it up to a power that you're thinking, oh, this is too much. Well, just do it.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Definitely just go out and make mistakes because that's how you learn. And it is fun.
Yes.
100% is fun.
Yes. So the definitely advice is you must control the light, not the light must control you, because this is our fear that you shoot and you don't know where the light go and it's too white. And don't shoot TTL. You need to shoot manual.
Yeah. As Sian explained earlier, TTL is through the lens. That's letting the camera decide how much light. And what Pisco is saying is grab onto it. If I can end the episode by saying, your Aunt Lulu is the person who says, oh, that's a pretty fountain. Go stand over by there and I'm going to take your picture. She sees the pretty setting. A photographer looks for the light. And they decide, do I need more light? Do I need to balance the light? What am I going to do? But it's always the light first. And that fountain may be in one of the worst settings going. In fact, it may be the back alley that has a great setting for light. And if you understand light, you can make the perfect picture there, believe it or not. So I think we'll wrap up by saying, again, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Go out there, play with light, right? And have fun doing so.
And I also think we need to make some T-shirts with that saying on Pisco, what you just said about don't let the light control you. I think that's quite a good one for some T-shirts.
Yes, I have the copyright on that phrases, so you need to pay.
Well, thank you all for joining us this week. Next week we are going to have, in fact, Sian, you're hosting next week, aren't you?
I am indeed. I'm looking forward to that one. So tune in for next week's.
Yes, it's a show on using filters in photography. I think that's going to be quite exciting with Sian, Dave Williams, and Fernando Santos. And of course, we'd love to thank our sponsor, the wonderful Platypod. They make the world's leading compact tripods, whether you're in the Smokies, you're in the great cathedrals of Rome, or you're on the beach on the Isle of Wight. A Platypod is there for you and is one of the most handy accessories. So thank you, Sian. Thank you, Pisco.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to our dear readers for listening to this podcast. It's the Epic Photography Podcast.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
So long.